Chris Buescher is in his 9th full-time NASCAR Cup Series season. The RFK Racing driver has won 5 times or done something only 2.8% of NASCAR Cup drivers have ever done in winning 5 or more races in a career. Before the race at Texas Motor Speedway, I visited with the native Texan and we talked about a variety of topics, including his Lone Star roots, why he enrolled in Dale Carnegie classes at age 15, and the one thing he likes way more in his home state compared to his current residence in North Carolina, and it has to do with speed. Short tracks. That's the big hot topic of conversation right now. It's kind of a red alert, it feels like, that NASCAR is really saying we got to do something. So do you have a solution? Everybody seems to offer a solution. What is your opinion on what could make it better?
Yeah, we've all got ideas, right? And to be fair, certainly understand there's probably a lot more in the workings versus what may be realistic. That being said, I'm always a fan of horsepower, and I think that I miss the days when I think the most horsepower I ever had in a race car was an ARCA car, and it was right around 900 when the Cup cars were pushing 1,000. So those were thought there was a lot of tire management back then. Second thing is going to be just tires, right? How do we get something that does what we're trying to do? Bristol was probably a day when we had some awareness and said, look, we can get to this point for sure. And so how do we make that kind of find a little bit of a happy medium, come back 25% to make it where we can make a little bit farther a run, or maybe not even that, but at least feel like you're able to run 90 or 100% for a couple laps and then take it easy to try and save your stuff, not to the point where you feel like you're having to run 70% the whole run.
So, like I said, it's a red alert. If they said, all right, guys, because I don't know if you heard Denny say something along the lines of, Dale Jr., let him go out and test the tires. So what if they said, all right, guys, we're going to have former drivers test on Mondays, current drivers can test on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and we're going to do this for however long it takes us to figure this out. Do you think other drivers would volunteer for something like this?
Absolutely. Yeah, if that came up, absolutely they would try and get the ability to do it and try stuff. I think taking former drivers is probably a good start. One, not every team in this garage area can go test, and that's where the testing policy came out of, was trying to make it more fair for the entire garage. And,
right.
We had a time where teams were running racetracks weekly.
Right.
And they go out and run and spending just astronomical amounts of money to do it.
Right.
So we certainly don't want that. But if you had a program where you had people that weren't gaining an advantage out of it, that can go do legitimate tire tests on it, yeah, I'd say there's probably a lot of opportunity there to actually make that work. I can see that one working really well.
Okay. So let's go to your Texas roots. So we talked at COTA. You mentioned Liberty Hill. So kind of set up the whole Prosper and Liberty Hill and your age ranges in there.
I grew up in Prosper. We lived in Prosper when we were coming out to this racetrack, running the 5th mile out back behind Big Hoss, before Big Hoss was a thing.
Right.
Which before the dirt track back there was a thing, the little dirt track. Even ran a Legends car race on the big dirt track, which was a little sketchy. And then a bunch of laps in the infield on the road course during the Winter Series that I believe were mixed in with the quarter mile on the front stretch as well. I know we ran a lot there, so I just don't remember when. So I have laps on all the surfaces around here. Been able to win on the 3 asphalt surfaces other than the big track. And I did not pull off a win on the big dirt track that day. That was not my cup of tea. But that being said, that was all out of Prosper days. My family moved down to South Texas when I was already in North Carolina.
Okay.
So I never actually lived down around the Austin area. Just would go in to visit when we'd go out for Christmas. My wife and I and our dogs at the time before we had kids, we'd get in the motorhome and we'd road trip to Texas for Christmas about every year for probably 10 years or so. So that's where really the whole Liberty Hill experience came from for me.
Okay.
My parents have a lot of really good friends out there, and then my sister stayed up in North Texas after my parents and middle sister ended up to North Carolina as of a couple years ago.
So, I mean, how old were you when you left Texas?
15.
So you left your family at 15. So that's a big step for a 15-year-old kid to leave his family. So that's like, I'm committed to professional racing. Is that kind of the thought?
Yeah, that was it. Not the most fun way to go about it, for sure. But I think I was 13. We were sitting in the living room in Prosper and kind of talking about this hobby that we were doing, going to the racetrack, and said, all right, well, if we want this to be serious, we're going to have to put in a little bit more work, a little more effort. Going to have to make some decisions. And so at that time, it was, all right, when summer break gets here, we're going to take off to Charlotte and we're going to go race for 3 months. And it's not going to be your summer vacation that all the kids have where you go get in trouble and just run around and goof off. We took off to Charlotte and worked on race cars, raced I think 60-something races, on track 60 times over the course of 3 months. We stayed busy and got to know a lot of people and met some good friends. The Reagan family being a couple of those friends, and through that had a lot of good advice from them. And Reagan, who was running the NASCAR program out of Harrisburg, North Carolina at the time, basically got to the end of our 3rd year out there and said, look, if you really want to chase this, you need to be out here. He told my dad that, and just the family wasn't in a position to move. So he said, well, Ken Reagan goes, said, well, David's moved out. I got a spare bedroom here at the house, so let's talk about it. Maybe you come out here and you go work in David's shop. I had started homeschooling through high school just because of travel commitments, and so just continued that on. Moved out there. That took some convincing with mom, for sure, but moved out there right before I turned 16, and basically got into a rhythm of homeschooling for the first half of the day, going to David's personal race shop in the afternoons to go work and help them out, and then we go somewhere during lunchtime to pit practice over at Roush to volunteer, go clean wheels, and try and drive pit practice cars from time to time, and just pretty much took off from there. So I initially got to North Carolina without the ability to drive myself where I needed to go. my Texas permit was not valid out there, and so I had to get rides for a long time. I had to attend or was enrolled into Dale Carnegie speaking courses down to Charlotte. At 15, that was nerve-wracking. One, I had to get a ride down there every time, and at 2, it's like all around these 30, 40-year-old marketing executives and CEOs, and so, man, I am out of place. I'm just a kid trying to figure out how to do a little public speaking, but it was a lot hit you all at once. Back on now, it seems like forever ago, but just all the little things that took on to try and make this work and get to this point.
So when I heard you say the whole Dale Carnegie thing on Race Hub, I'm like, oh my God, that 15 years old, and then you describe what you just described here. So that's like, so just, it's not even real, right? To imagine this, I'm sure all these other guys are looking at you going, this kid, right? I mean, so leadership, I know it's leadership and like you said, public speaking. So, I mean, do you feel clearly you've attained a position in the Cup Series? Did that help you? Did that?
100%. Probably should have taken another one somewhere as a refresher, but that was probably one of the biggest things I did for my racing career. That was not from behind the wheel. You obviously work a lot, you network a lot, you make people that just were friends before they were anything else in any kind of supporters or helping push you into different areas or financial support. We just made friends, and friends all over the country now from those days. But I think for me, the Dale Carnegie speaking courses was the best thing I did. I look back at my Legends Car days, my win interviews. They sit there and put a mic in front of you. The summer shootout at Charlotte used to be televised. You get out there with a microphone in your face. They'd ask how the day was. Good. Like that was me. I was not made for public speaking, and needed a fair amount of pushing to get better at that.
Okay, no, that's just fascinating. So the other statistic that stuck out to me was the whole 85 drivers with 5 or more Cup wins, 2.8%. So I mean, that is really elite company. So this Texas kid, 15 years old, moves to Carolina. I mean, your career, has it lived up to what you expected going in as that 15-year-old who moved to Carolina?
Maybe a little slower than I had hoped, but certainly enjoyed it now more than ever. You know, we're more competitive week in, week out. You know, we're continuing to learn and evolve. RFK is in a much better place than it's been since I really first signed up over there 15 years ago. So I mean, it's all kind of coming together now. It just seemed like it would have happened 10 years ago. But at the time, you know, 15-year-old kid, I was probably a little bit greedy. Didn't try to do everything all at once. Realizing that there's a lot to it, and it's not an easy road to come across successfully. So certainly in a nice spot. And it's pretty cool to look at those numbers and realize how small of company that we're within, but we're ready to make those numbers smaller yet. We got to figure out how to keep going, how to take a step into that next group that's 10 wins, and then beyond that. So we're on our way. We got some work to do yet.
What's the biggest difference since Brad became co-owner?
I mean, the first thing, the most obvious thing I keep coming to, it's the first thing that happened. It's the most noticeable thing every time we walk in the shop. It's just cleanliness, organization, kind of some workflow stuff. It's what probably comes down to more than anything. It's just details, detail work. But what that surfaced as initially was everything in the shop getting cleaned up, organized. It looks like a nice organized assembly floor. You could eat lunch off the floor now, right? It's functionally it always worked before, but it looks a lot different now. It's a lot cleaner. It's a lot more organized. It allows us to focus on detail work. I think it holds everyone accountable to just a higher standard of work, and seems like that was his first big push. Yeah, it was something that for the initial time, you know, we weren't where we wanted to be. We weren't winning races, and everybody's saying, well, painting walls and epoxying the floor, what is this doing to help us? And you look back now, and you go through the shop, and it looks just the same now as it did 3 years ago when it first got done. It's like, all right, well, you start to understand that this was just a foundation for a lot bigger principles to come. So that's the one I'd always tell people about, because it's right there in your face every time you come through. People that have been around from the past that come back now, it's a big change.
What is the most bizarre thing you've seen on the racetrack?
Most bizarre, like outside of wild, like I seen a beaver run across the racetrack one time when we were testing. That was one where you knew if you hit it, it was going to actually, obviously, expire the animal, but probably expire the race car as fast as they're going. That was one of those 205-mile-an-hour tests. Something like that would have destroyed everything that was going on. So didn't hit them. It was for the proving grounds testing back in the day. And then outside of that, I'd probably come back to Xfinity years. So this would have been 14, I believe, when Travis Pastrana was driving a 60 car at maybe 13. But anyway, at the time, Travis Pastrana was driving a 60 car at Roush on the Xfinity side. And I remember being behind him several times. One of them was here in Texas. It was one of the big moments. And we'd come off the corner on a restart or something, and he would get sideways, and to the point where we're reading Goodyear over the left front fender. He was so sideways, the whole field is pure panicking, out of the gas, lifting, trying to figure out where we're all going to wreck at. And sometimes I swear he did it by design. So all of a sudden he's straightened that thing back out, smoke would stop pouring off the right rear as he's drifting a stock car around a corner. And he'd get back going and take off. And then he left all of us around him, right, that were right behind him, right? We'd sit there and be like, well, crap, we got to go again. Like, he saved that. We're not wrecking. And that was some of the most bizarre moments. Just some of the most wild recoveries I've ever seen. We were racing with Pastrana that year. I remember that from probably 2 or 3 points, but one of the biggest ones was here in Texas off of turn 10.
All right, a couple more. Texas pride. I mean, obviously you haven't lived here since you're 15, but you talked about it. I saw your shoes. Talk to me about that, being a lifelong Texan. What does it mean to you, the Texas pride?
Yeah, I realize now I'm removed from here as long as I grew up here, and that does hurt my feelings a little bit. But I love that area. It's home. It's where I grew up. It's all his memories. I just like the space. I like the speed limits out here. We're slacking in the Carolinas. The whole home of racing thing. 55-mile speed limits. What a joke. But it's just I enjoy the space out here. A lot of friends out here, and just like the area. Proud of it. I know through the years, I think about my time spent at the racetrack here, from opening year to now, sitting in the grandstand right there,
right
off of turn 4 initially, and then eventually right over the start-finish line. I've got more laps around this place watching from that aluminum bench than I do on the track, I believe. So I know. So it is cool just to think back to Cup races, to Xfinity, to truck races, to IROC, to IndyCar. The races we've watched here through the years. It's pretty neat to go back and say we're all now on that racetrack and part of that. So just always need to come back and kind of take that all in. I think the first time I drove our truck and trailer was on property here, just moving from the parking lot inside, going through the tunnel, trying not to tear the mirrors off my dad's dually back then. Like, just little stuff that comes to mind that you don't think about. But I got a lot of really neat memories through the years of lots of different scenarios here.
Last question. What would you tell your 10-year-old self?
My 10-year-old self.
Whether it's about life or racing or both. I mean, what just...
You know what? I think probably to relax a little bit. At that time, from like 10 to 15, I remember being on pins and needles at any given point, because I always felt like you were just... that the whole world was watching it all the time, and I was trying to get to this level or this point. And I probably missed out on some fun just because just thought it had to be a little bit too structured. Now that's not saying to go out and go crazy, right? But just opted out of certain times that could have been a little bit more fun. Probably would have been good memories to go back on. But also within reason. I think that stands to be pretty obvious. But I grew up with a lot of good buddies that had a lot of fun, but also this was consuming through the years, and wouldn't go back and skip out on race days, but try and enjoy some of the stuff in between.
All right, thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.